We are live on Facebook here today with Experience Matters Live one more time. Once again, if you're watching your screen right now, expecting to see Kent Sr., he is, I'm taking over for him one more time. I think he comes back next week. In fact, I know he does, and has a great show lined up with, I think it's with Mark Anderson of our company, talking about renovations and maybe even, I don't know exactly what he's got planned, but he's probably got something cool planned with maybe seeing some of the houses or seeing some pictures or something. We'll let him figure out exactly what he wants to do next week with the show. But Ken Sr. will be back next week with another Experience Matters Live with him. This week I'm sitting in for him, and I am joined by a fantastic guest of ours, a real estate investor, another client of REI Nation that, look, we're wanting to get to know a little bit, maybe hear a little bit of the story from Miss Janet Meier. Janet, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here, and happy to share my story with REI Nation. I started with you guys back in 2016. I met you through Fortune Builders. I know a lot of your clients are fellow Fortune Builders. Back in 2015, started interviewing a bunch of companies for my passive income portfolio, and then started off with Mark Cobb, who's been a really great resource to me. He helped me put the whole strategy together and explained all about passive income and how to put the plan together and the whole compounding formula for buying rentals that then pay the rent pays down the mortgage on the others. So for me, like a lot of others, what I do is Fortune Builders really taught me that I use my own money. And in this case, I'm using IRA money, REI money. I set up a self-directed IRA to buy rental properties to create that passive income stream. And I use other people's money, private money lenders with Emerald Home Investments, to actually do new construction and flipping and investment projects. And what I really needed from a passive income stream, because I'm also a realtor with Coldwell Banker, is I don't have time to manage my properties and try to get renters. And, everybody always tells you you should have rentals right in front of your face where you can keep your eyes on them and always check on them. And of course, all of mine are out of state with you guys. And I'll talk about that in a little bit and why I'm comfortable doing that. But I took some time to actually interview a bunch of companies. I went out to Memphis and met with you, Chris, and a bunch of the folks. I think I met everybody in your office back when it was Memphis Invest in 2016. I also went and visited Ryan over in Dallas Invest and looked and met everybody in the office in Texas as well. And you guys were just so accommodating. It felt like a family. And I do want to say one of the things that caught my eye in your office was that you had this little placard up and it said, fast is as slow as we go.
That's right.
And I always say God shortchanged me when he passed out patients. And I said, this is going to be a good fit. But, because I needed the income to truly be passive and not require any work from me, what I really like is, the fact that I get an email and I just see all these emails coming in saying that the deposits have gone into my Wells Fargo account. You guys have the 24-hour customer service for the tenants, so I don't have to deal with tenants. I don't want people calling me when the toilet breaks.
Right.
I don't want to be the one looking for renters and keeping the house rented. And, I don't want to be chasing vacancies. And, kudos to you guys, by the way, Chris. I've been watching some of the Facebook Live posts and your other posts that you do and seeing that, 6,300, clients and homes. And, out of all those homes, you only had like 220 or something that weren't collecting rent during COVID, which was phenomenal. And none of them were mine. All of mine have been collecting. And, I think that's phenomenal. I started off with Mark Cobb planning a strategy, like many of your other clients probably, where you kind of figure out in your retirement, when you're not making an active income anymore, how much rental income did I want to be making so that I didn't have to touch any of my investments and trickle down bank accounts. All I wanted to do was make sure that I could kind of live off of and maintain the style that I'm used to, the lifestyle that I'm used to, without having to work off of the rental incomes.
Right.
And Mark and I looked at that and we said, okay, maybe 10 to 15 homes. And let's, start off. I bought a couple with cash, and then I bought all the subsequent properties with 50% non-recourse loans. And then every 2 or 3 years, you'd own another home. And I just keep that compounding factor, and the rent and the mortgage, the rent from the homes I own 100%. And then the rent that's left over from the one that's mortgaged, because the rental income that you guys get from me always covers the mortgage payment and then some. So I take the leftover money from that plus 100% of the rent on the ones I own free and clear, and I use that to pay down the next house. And
Right.
I keep doing that. And one of the things that you gave me as a really great piece of advice, Chris, I don't know if you remember this, but
I cannot wait to hear.
I try to visit your office about once a year, and I pop in and I check I drive by the houses that I own. I own 2 in Memphis and 2 in Texas. I have 1 in Pennsylvania that's not through Memphis Invest or REI Nation. And I have 2 more that I'm getting ready to buy with you guys. But one of the pieces of advice that you gave me when I first started this was, Jan, you've got a great game plan going. You and Mark came up with a great plan, but don't be in a hurry. You weren't pushing me to just keep buying houses for the sake of buying them and get to my goal of 10 to 15 houses.
Right.
You said you have time for retirement. I was looking at, a 7 to 10 year horizon. It's not something I had to have in place in the next 3 to 5 years. And you said, play the market. And you said, don't be, try to be on the pattern of buying 1 to 2 more houses each year till you get to your portfolio goal, but don't be in a hurry to buy for the sake of buying.
Right.
And might be times when you don't buy anything one year and you might buy 2 the next year. And for me, I've been telling you guys I want to buy my next 2 for a while, but as an investor, I do many different things. And one of the things I ended up doing was taking, a friend needed to borrow $170,000. So I wrote a note, lent him my IRA money that I was going to use to buy the houses with, and he's paying me 10% on that.
Right.
And he's late paying it back. So I was planning to use that money to buy a couple more houses. And, but I'm not stressed because I know there's time. Interest rates are low right now, but I know, you guys are selling them like hotcakes, and, houses might not be available when I'm finally ready to buy again, but I know that I have time, and there's, some comfort in that. And one of the things that I found that was really great about you guys was that you weren't pushing me to sell so that you could just get rid of your inventory. You were worried
Right.
about meeting my goals on my timeline. The other thing that was really great was when you guys took me out on the tours to see all the neighborhoods where you guys were buying properties and renovating the home so you don't have deferred maintenance, get hit with unplanned maintenance. As soon as you buy a fully flipped house. I went through and I said, I'm okay personally with BB plus neighborhoods, because every neighborhood that you guys do renovations and buy houses in is one that's safe. It's not, in a really, really low income neighborhood where you're worried about crime. It's someplace where someone could walk a baby at night, in the carriage. And for me, I knew, because I was trying to build my portfolio, rather than going for the AA plus properties that had maybe the greater value
Sure.
time, I wanted the BB plus properties because my goal was to buy in a good medium neighborhood, but maximize the amount of rent for the money I was spending. And for me, it
Right.
wasn't for spending another $50,000 to only get 100 more in rent, a month, because I was maximizing rental income to buy more houses. So that's kind of a little bit of what I've been doing and how I met you guys.
Well, that's fantastic. And there's a lot to unpack there. Can I unpack some of that for our listeners and kind of go through a little bit of this?
Sure.
I want to start with, and we may kind of go a little bit in the reverse here. Well, let me start here. One, you had mentioned early on that you've been watching some of the videos we've been posting out. And of course, I'm sure the Experience Matters Live broadcast of my dad, and maybe some of the individual videos I posted. I want to do something for all of our listeners right now. And this is just a brief Houston update, just because it's really pertinent right now. We have 250, 300 houses down there we're managing in Houston. And I know now this morning from our team that so far we've had 0 reported water issues down there. No flooding, no wind damage. Thank goodness. I know Houston is kind of cleaning up after some of the mess ups today, mostly water. But the good news is, for all of our listeners on here, anybody that has a property under contract, look, this is there's a reason we are as particular as we are about where we buy. Houston has come through really well. Our team is completely safe. Their homes are safe. So we feel good. We want to make sure that we update everybody on that. And then just a brief rental update. I want to make sure I corrected one little thing there. At one point, we only had 20 properties that couldn't pay rent at all, that were also in a scenario where they weren't even talking to us. So, there was a few more that were struggling with rent, but they were communicating and we were working with. And we have some great owners who have made some discounts and said, look, we'll forgive half that rent, for that month or that type of thing. They've done a really, really good job. So you are right. I want to make sure that I didn't give anybody the impression that we only had 20 houses that know that but there was only 20 I call issues. All right, awesome. But I want to unpack a little bit of that, because what a great story. What a great share you just did. First, look, you can find, here's the thing about real estate investing. And if you're watching this, write this down, because you can find a property to invest in anytime and in any market, in any city, but it doesn't mean it's the right time for you. And it doesn't mean it's the right market for you. It doesn't mean it's the right property for you. And so I love that you remembered that, because that's something that our entire team from top to bottom really focuses on. We want to get what's best for you. There is a lot of demand for what we do. There's a lot of demand for our houses, which is great. We're blessed, but we want to do what's best for you. If that means wait, then we wait. But when the right house is there for your portfolio, we're ready to go. That's the beauty of being the type of company we are, the size we are, and the demand we have, is that we don't have to push you to buy.
Well, Chris, the other thing is I had this discussion. By the way, I want to give a shout out to Jill Barnum, who's my customer service.
Yes.
Great, taking care of me each month. And also Ashley Tinker.
Yeah.
When I was first contacted her and said, okay, I'm ready to buy 2 more houses. You guys were launching, I think at the time it was like Kansas City, Oklahoma. You were looking at Missouri and expanding. And she said, are you interested in any of those, Jan? Let me show you what those profiles, look like. And she sent me some of the data sheets. And the dialogue that I had with her was, on the one hand, I want to diversify, which is why I have half my current properties in Memphis and half in Dallas, and Dallas and Fort Worth. And I said, I'm interested in looking at those others. But the other difficulty I had, or the headache for me, was that because I have Emerald Home Investments that does flipping and new construction projects, luxury homes, I have Emerald Home Equities, which holds 3 of the properties. And then I have Emerald Home Equities 2. All the equities line for Emerald is where I hold the rental properties.
Right.
And I know fortune builders will tell you, if you want to be a purist, one LLC for each house. I don't want to maintain all the registrations, because I incorporated Nevada, and then I have to maintain registrations and do all the filings and registered agents in all the different states. So for me, I was like, I'm not sure I'm ready to add another state to have to keep track of. So it's that balance of, I put 3, maybe 4 homes into one LLC, then I create another one. So I'm at least limiting the liability within those, but I'm also having to keep track of, okay, Emerald Home Equities is also, I keep track of Nevada, I keep track of Tennessee, I keep track of Texas, so there's that balance too. And I want to just say kudos to Ashley, because she listened and dialogued with me about all of that. And she kind of said her piece. She shared with me the information, and I didn't say no, never to the other states, because I do want to balance diversification with complicating my life and how many LLCs and registrations to keep track of.
I personally, I love fortune builders, and I'm going to talk about them here for a second, but that's crazy talk. I would never but all that's risk profile. We've talked about it on some of our other videos here in the group. That's really comes down to risk profile. How much, and how much you want to spend, and how much time do you have to. So it's great that you brought that up, because it can get expensive and be a lot of time to have an LLC for each state. But fortune builders, not everybody on here knows who fortune builders is. So I want to say something real quickly, because I think it's important to really acknowledge something. The owners of fortune builders, as you know, and we'll tell everybody else that might be watching, those guys are they were on A&E's Flip This House, one of the early A&E Flip This House groups out of Connecticut. And when we first met them back in 2009, they had already told us they'd been solicited a dozen times. We didn't solicit them. This was kind of a joint. They got to know Kent, my older brother, and thought that this might be a good fit for them. But they had been solicited a dozen times by people to sell houses to their clients, and they wouldn't do it because they knew that if a client bought a house and had a bad experience, that would reflect poorly on them. So not everybody knows this, but when Fortune Builders, when we first met in 2009, they actually bought houses with us to experience customer service, to experience the renovations, the neighborhoods. Was this real? Did we actually do what we said we do? Did we renovate to the level we said we renovate? And the funny thing is, since we met them, we've actually improved across every metric that they were looking at. We renovate to an even higher level today. Our customer service is even better, but they were really worried about their reputation. So throughout years, they and their families and many of their team members have bought, and I don't know the exact number, but the size of the portfolios that they built out with us in every single city have been really a testament to the reason why they would tell a student like yourself, someone who went to them to learn how to do the bigger real estate model, why they would introduce you to us. You know what I mean? Because there's some people on here that don't know who Fortune Builders is. And they may also, there's some people on here that may think that it's just an education company and say, that's a ripoff. I wouldn't go with education, which is perfectly fine. The point of the matter is that they invested with us personally to experience it, and then decided, hey, we want to introduce our students who need to be able to invest passively and have a good, high quality company, that family atmosphere to do it. And so that's how our relationship came to be. Love that you met us through them, because you may be the first person we've interviewed here that came through Fortune Builders. That's pretty cool.
And I have to tell you, I had served in the U.S. Navy for 8 years. I went and did the corporate America thing. I was a biotech executive for 22 years. Yeah. I wish, and my background's in construction engineering and management, so I'm not new to construction. That's what I did in the Navy. I was in the Civil Engineer Corps, and it's in my blood. It's what my master's degree is in, but I didn't know anything about investing. And right. So when I left corporate America in 2014, one of the first things I did was I invested money in Fortune Builders. And I said, I know most of the construction part. What I don't know is how to be an investor. And oh my gosh, I wish I had discovered real estate when I was much, much younger. My kids both own real estate. My son started investing before he even graduated from college. I am doing my kids differently.
Yeah, that's neat.
Background, but I paid Fortune Builders to teach me some of the nuts and bolts and to teach me how much I knew. I didn't even know that I didn't know.
Right.
And part of that was the concept of passive income and active income and other people's money, private money lenders, hard money. They taught me that whole thing so I could put my business model together. And I did meet you guys through them. I interviewed you and another company, and was just like, oh my goodness, because I've met you guys, I know what my goals are. One of the other things, if there's anybody on this call who hasn't purchased any properties yet, but is thinking about it, one of the things that impressed me the most, Chris, you always say, I don't want you to have a great experience, Jan. I want you to have a wow experience. I was used to, the only reason why I got my real estate license and became a realtor many years ago was because I couldn't find one that I trusted to work with, quite honestly, that met my, and I said, I have to go do that myself too. And so, one of the things I loved about you guys was when I bought my first house, I was so meticulous. And when you are new to something, you are just like, you're all over it like a pit bull. Right. At least I am. I'm very attention to detail. And I'm going, okay, I got to hire an independent inspector. I know Memphis Investor, now REI is a great company, but I'm hiring my own inspector. And I know the house has been flipped, but I want to, and I saw that list. And when the inspection report came to me, I kid you not, and this happens to me every single time, Chris, the inspection report comes to me. By the time I get around to reading it and trying to pick up the phone to call you guys to say, hey, here's a few things I think need to be fixed, I get another copy from you guys saying everything's already been fixed. There's nothing to discuss or negotiate. It's like no questions asked. Inspector found it, fine, for your peace of mind, we fixed it. And you fixed it before I can even ask for it. And, you guys give us the option. I know you just did a segment recently on the insurance, and that we can shop around for our own insurance, but you guys make that so easy. And I think one of the big things for me with you guys is truly, truly the passive nature of this income. Yes, I can take the time to go shop around for insurance, or I can just let you guys handle that too. And it's just, thank you, for I brag about you guys to everybody I meet who wants to talk real estate. I have, Mark Cobb can tell you, he's probably got 10 or 20 text introductions from me and somebody else who wants to talk about potentially investing with you guys. I connect so many people to you guys because I am one of your biggest fans. And something else I want to say is, it's not always, I want this to be realistic for people listening to this.
Sure,
yeah,
absolutely.
We have had some issues, but they're not, to me, it's not important that you never have a problem that you have to deal with. What's important to me is how you guys deal with it when there is a problem. Nate Gray will pick up the phone and he will call me and talk to me. We have an issue. I'm not happy about something. And that's something about me is I'm not going to sit back and harbor resentment. If I'm not happy or I have a question about something, you're going to hear from me. And we take care of it. No harm, no foul, no hard feelings. It's like, fix it, move on, and that's it. And that's what I love about you guys. Fast as it, slow as you go. If I have an issue, we talk about it and it's fixed. And so I couldn't ask for anything more, from a company, because nobody is perfect. But the fact is, you guys are willing to go that extra mile and deal with things in a way that gives me confidence and peace of mind. I live all the way across the country in Southern California, and I never worry about those properties. And when my husband has an airplane, so we would travel. My son went to Annapolis, so we were traveling back and forth to the East Coast a lot, and we would always stop in at Dallas, stop in at Memphis. And, if we saw something, you guys took care of it. So I'm happy and confident that I'll be building out my entire portfolio with you. The one property I have in Pennsylvania was not through Memphis Invest. It was before I met you guys, and I've never purchased another one through that company. And I'm only keeping it because it's a land contract, and I feel sorry for the tenants, and they're great tenants, so I'm hanging on that one.
Well, let me tell you that, that is probably one of the better testimonials that we could receive, because we get a lot of testimonials from people that, and they may have, we've had people that have had their house for 5 years and never had to move out. Maintenance to speak of would be probably less than 1% a year of their collective rent. So, it's virtually nothing. And when you hear that kind of testimonial, I'm sure there's people on here, when they hear a testimonial like that, they're like, yeah, right. It's so hard to believe, but it is true. But the best testimonial that we can get, and I've said this so many times, and you just did it again, because we've had this testimonial before, that it's not that things are perfect, because it's not. It's real estate, but it's how the team, and it's not me. It is, you mentioned so many of them, from Jill to Ashley Tinker to Mark to Nate Gray. We have a phenomenal team, and there's so many others that don't get listed very often, don't get mentioned very often here on the podcast, that work behind the scenes, so that that when it's not perfect, we're on it. Whether it's, the whole point is that we have a level of responsibility, and it's kind of funny because it sounds like one of those quotes that you have to really think about to understand. But Kent Sr. says, we want investors to feel a way they didn't know they wanted to feel a way they didn't know was possible. And that's
hope that would be possible.
yeah. What does that mean? And it's that, the bar, let's just talk about it for a second. The bar for real estate, as is just so low. It's like down here below my knees. It's because service, forget it. People returning phone calls, that's out of here. The property management is a dime a dozen. So most people don't consider, how do I feel? You just said it. You live in Southern California and you sleep well at night, right?
Yep.
That's what we want. We want you to sleep like you just invested in a house next door, because it's all taken care of. It's so interesting that you said that, because these are things that we literally sit around as a group and we talk about what can we do to elicit that kind of response from residents as well.
Yep. And I think it's, it's hard, I think, for people in real estate to understand that. I would tell everybody two things. One, if anybody ever tells you they never lost money in real estate, never made a mistake, they're feeding you a line of BS, because we've all made our mistakes and that's how you learn.
Right.
Two, if you don't have the stomach for the roller coaster, because things are going to go wrong, it's kind of like a wedding. No matter how well you plan, something is not going to go right. There's going to be some aspect, right? And if you don't have the stomach for that, then you're in the wrong business. You shouldn't be in real estate. And I think, so maybe I live to expect the worst, and that's why I'm so meticulous and I'm always double checking and trust but verify everything, right? But it's also a two-way street. I keep harping on how nice it is as a passive investor, right? This is my passive income stream, the part I don't want to think about. But I also know that I can't abdicate all the responsibility to REI Nation. We have to help each other, and I need to be taking some responsibility for my properties and checking on them once in a while, or looking at the reports and just making sure that things are okay, and helping you guys provide the service that you want to provide too, because people aren't perfect. And I don't want to let things get to the point where they're so underwater or gone so bad. It's an uphill battle to fix them. We need to help each other get the outcome that we want, and take some responsibility for our properties too.
I have a question here from the group. They want to know how much time do you spend a month on your portfolio?
My REI Nation one?
Yes, your REI Nation portfolio. Yeah.
Probably 4 minutes. A minute's to look at each email that comes in that tells me the rent hit my bank account.
Now, surely you look at your statements from us, right?
So I do. I click on them, just look them over. Yep. They look fine. And you know what? And sometimes they might go 3 or 4 months, and I'll look at several of them all together and go back and kind of check on stuff.
Sure.
Because I don't always have that 3 or 4 minutes a month, but religiously, because they come right into my email on my iPhone, as soon as it hits, I'm like, yep, okay, rent got collected. Now I'm not sitting there mentally going, okay, was that this one or this one's coming in? So every few months I'll look at the statements in more detail and just make sure nothing was missing, right?
That's
good. And I think that's how we found one of the mistakes, earlier this year with a move out that occurred. And I was like, wait a minute, this was supposed to happen. I don't see that on all the statements. Well, we jumped on it, and we had to put some fixes in place. But it was, but I also accept that, that's something that we as owners should be doing, is taking a look at. You can't put all of the responsibility on REI Nation, no matter how good a company is, and yeah, you are kind of paying for that service, but they also, REI Nation is to be able to rely on me that when I see things, I'm going to say something.
Yes.
But I have to say, Chris, I have been invested with you guys since 2016. This is 2020. We're going into 2021. I'd say in all that time, there might have been 2 issues.
Right.
The other stuff was run of the mill, and I don't consider an issue a water line burst and had to be fixed, or the fence fell down. That is normal course of business. And that's why I tell people, if you don't have the stomach for that, you're in the wrong business.
Sure. So tell me about Southern California. How's the real estate market out there?
Hot.
Not meaning, what's going on?
It's incredible. I just helped my son and his fiance buy a house in San Diego. They're both in the Navy, and I am not kidding. Houses were flying off the market. They were getting 50 to 100,000 more than asking, multiple offers. And if a house was on the market for more than a week, there was something wrong with it.
There's an issue. Yeah.
And in Ventura County, where I personally reside, I would say anything under $1 million is going pretty quickly. Even some of the over $1 million are going fairly quickly. The inventory is low, interest rates are low. And that's kind of what happened. And then when COVID-19, when some of the restrictions started easing up a bit and people were not afraid to venture out, and we figured out ways to clean houses and wear masks and require property entry forms and all that, people were like, it's like there was a get out of jail card. They were all out wanting to look at houses, and we restrict the number of people allowed in a house, and typically they have to be serious buyers. We're not doing any open houses like the old house open houses of the old days are gone. We're doing
Right.
those really an appointment only. But I am telling you, the market, even though we're having to do things differently, it hasn't slowed the market. The things that have been slowing the market, I had, people are falling out of escrow at the very last minute that were pre-approved because lenders are being extra diligent.
Right.
We're not seeing there's going to start being some foreclosures, I think, going forward, because a lot of people who thought forbearance meant forgiveness. But we're not going to see the type of crash that we saw back in like 2008, because people in general in America have more money saved up. They're not over leveraged like they were, back in the 80s. And again, back in 2006, 2008, people who are buying now and people who have houses have equity in those homes and they have savings. So I think we'll start seeing some issues as unemployment, continues and people are not able to buy, but the people with the buying power are out in force and the house inventory is low.
Wow. Well, it's kind of interesting because we're seeing some of that same thing across our 7 markets. It's low inventory. There's just not as many houses out there, which is, it's run off some of the other buyers, some of the other investors or investment companies, but it's also those that have staying power like us. I mean, we're going toe to toe. There's some big New York hedge funds, New York funded hedge funds that are that want to buy in our markets, and it's just so interesting that there's just not a lot of inventory, but you've got a lot of liquidity. So it's everyone is going after it. It's really driving prices up a little bit. But what's interesting is that on our side, and I want to know if you've experienced any of this. I think you probably have based on what you said, but on our side, houses aren't sitting for rent either. I mean, they're not. I checked that this morning. There were 61 houses for rent. That's it. 61 houses. We had less than 12 properties that were vacant longer than 20 days. I'm not like these types of KPIs we haven't been able to achieve in the past. Some of it I absolutely believe is due to COVID. Other things are just due to kind of the things we've learned as a company along the way. Have you had any extended vacancies at all?
No. It's same thing with the rental, even in the luxury realm. I mean, I'm in houses for $6,500, $10,000 a month. And those are like, they're going quickly. A lot of people, because I live on the coast, a lot of people did staycations this year instead of regular vacations. And so rentals on the beach, wow, right through the roof. And you could not find anything. People wanted to have a house right on the beach, be able to surf, not have to, social distance from everybody out. They have their own house. There have been some restrictions with COVID that you can't, that we weren't allowed to do short-term rentals for like a weekend or a week. So they tended to be month-long rentals. And that's why they were more like vacations, where people came and stayed for a month. Nope, we're seeing the same thing, even rentals. And I think what's happening too is people who thought that they were qualified to buy, lenders on the day of closing, I mean, literally, the lender's getting ready to fund and escrow is getting ready to record with the county. The title's going to take the stuff over to county. They will call the morning of funding and find out if the person's still employed. And if they are still employed, has their income been reduced because of lack of work with COVID-19 or reduced hours because of COVID-19? It's really tough out there. I mean, the lenders are just being really, really meticulous, and people have lost out and fallen out of escrow at the 11th hour that way.
We've done some of the same things on the rental side, and it's important right now because things change. They do change quickly, but it's important to make sure you've got it all together. I have one other question for you. So kind of going back to the wonderful share that you gave us about, your story and everything, compounding. So, I guess there's 2 thoughts that people have when they come invest with a company like ours. And one is that I'm going to invest, on a 30-year horizon with, the appropriate money down, 20, 25%, 30% down. And then I want to maximize my free cash flow. And for any various number of reasons. And then there's the kind of the flip side of that, and this is the advice that I give, because this is what I follow, that whether it's taking that free cash flow and reducing principal, paying that property off as soon as possible, or I even do some things where I may only leverage a house for 8 years, where I'm taking the cash flow itself and I'm just dumping it all into the note, making it, neutral. And then if I, bonuses or that kind of stuff through work, anything along those lines, sell something, take what I make and pay down faster that way. I heard you say compounding. For those watching here today, do you mind just talking just a little bit about kind of exactly, what you're
doing and why? Yeah.
Yeah. And what the purpose is and what you're going to achieve by it. Cause I think it's amazing. I know exactly what it's going to do. And you probably have the same theory that I have, that you want to own these assets as fast as possible, because that's the true money when you have no interest payment, which is the single biggest debt we have on these properties. So tell me if you don't mind.
That's exactly it. And for me, remember, I got into real estate late in my life. I was over 50. I was 52 when I started getting into real estate. I'm a very risk adverse person. And there's no better way, risk adverse to me in this setting with rentals is if I own that rental free and clear and something happens to the rental market, I don't have to worry about a mortgage payment that can't be paid because I don't have renters. Right. So no harm, no foul, no renter, no rental income. I'm not bleeding financially because I own that house free and clear.
Right.
So for me, that compounding model was a way for me to maximize. What I did when I left corporate America was I just took a little bit of money and I skimmed it off of my IRA and put it into a self-directed IRA. And when I rolled over that whole 401k portfolio, I didn't want to touch any of that.
Right.
My husband's always saying, why are you always worried about dwindling down? He goes, I want to spend my last dime with my dying breath. And I'm like, nope, the kids are inheriting it. He's like, for the kids. So the kids always laugh and say,
we've been telling Kent Sr. the same thing. We're just, leave it there for us. I don't know that he believes that yet. I don't know. We've gotten to him yet. But so we see the same thing. Go ahead.
Spend it all. The kids say, Mom would never let you do that. But my model was take all the money that I made in all those years in corporate America, leave it there, keep it invested, let that grow. And what I'm doing here is saying when my husband and I really, really retire, and make nothing, right, that the rental income is going to take care of our monthly expenses. I want to have $10,000 to $15,000 a month to spend and continue a lifestyle. So the compounding model allowed me to take just a little bit of that money out of my 401k that rolled over and I put it in a self-directed IRA. And now that money is rolling over on itself because I bought the first house free and clear to get a head start.
Right.
And then, so now I have 4 houses that I own free and clear. 100% of that rent is available plus the extra money on that 5th house to pay down that 5th house. And so I take a 50% non-recourse loan out, very easy to qualify. It's a no-brainer. And I know I'm only going to keep that loan for 2 or 3 years max. And I just keep paying that down and I take all the money back out and I just buy 2 or 3 more. And I just keep doing that and it keeps compounding and growing. And I'm not only just growing my portfolio, but I'm growing my portfolio of fully owned free and clear homes. That's my goal.
So there's buyers on here. There's probably investors on here that say they would never do that non-recourse because they're aware that, that might cost you 7%, 8%, 9%. You might pay 9% for the money, but you bring up such a great point that's often, it's like this barrier sometimes. And I'm not, anybody that's watching today that says, look, I would never pay that. That's okay. I'm not downplaying your take on it, but the flip side of that coin is it may be 9%. But I'm taking $1 and buying 2 houses because I split it in half. Exactly. And I'm only doing this for 2 to 3 years. Exactly. So, by virtue, you're taking your money. And if you own both in that 3 to 4 year time period, you're making between 25 and 33% on your money. And it's costing you 9 to do it. Your return is phenomenal. And then from there, you have, you're playing on the house money because you own it free and clear. It's
I would never do it if I thought I was going to keep that loan for 10 years or 15 years, 20 years. It's because you know you're only doing it for 2 or 3 years.
right. Right. I I agree with you 100%. I love it.
Well,
And
you guys taught me that, so thank you.
I'm not going to take all credit for that, but I'm going to tell you that, look, anybody that's known me long enough kind of knows my story. I've learned about interest and borrowing, all those kind of things through my own mistakes. I've developed my own lessons that we try and share with others. Nothing that we're telling anybody ever is something that we read about in a book and said, hey, try this. We talk from experience. So I love that you shared yours with us, because everybody watching today, I can promise, got something out of this conversation. That was phenomenal.
That's the other thing about real estate, right? Is that we're not really here to brag or toot your own. We're here to share our experiences, because one of the things I found so valuable in real estate, I mean, I'll tell you, even with fortune builders, I hardly go to their events anymore, but I know I have lifetime access to them. And it's the network that I form through fortune builders. And it was the quick, accelerated learning that I did. It might have taken me 3 years to figure out on my own what they taught me in a quick class, right? Just upfront. And it was worth the expense to me. It was an investment in my real estate venture. But I mean, real estate is about sharing and learning from each other's successes and not success, our
failures. Of course.
I mean, I learned a really painful lesson about a joint venture. And, so, I mean, but I think it's about learning and finding that circle of people that you trust and can lean on. And that's how you build your network, and we all learn and help each other, because you know what, there's plenty of real estate out there. There is plenty of money. This is not about, I've got mine, screw the rest of you. I don't want anyone into my little rice bowl here. It's like, there's plenty out there, and we all are here to help each other be successful and kind of learn from each other.
Yeah.
So.
Look, you've been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing and joining us here for the past, I think we've been on there over 30 minutes. Yeah, almost 45 minutes. Thank you so much for the kind words about Ashley Tinker and Jill and Nate and even Mark Cobb. Our team, it's such a pleasure working with you. It's what we do. It's our pleasure to work with everybody that we're serving. So I just really appreciate you taking the time and sharing so openly with everybody. It's going to mean a lot to the group.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And we will see you hopefully again soon. Next time you come through, be sure and let us know. Love to, or can't wait to see you again. Put it that way. That's the best way to put it. All right.
Thanks. Yeah. COVID-19's clipping our wings here.
Yeah, I know. Soon enough.
All right.
Thanks, Janet.
You're right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks everybody for joining us. See you later. Bye-bye.